Hey, in this episode, I'm going to build a lifting platform for my garage gym. Hey, this is Greg with Discovering Strength, the channel focused on fitness tips, product reviews, and occasionally a how-to for the average guy or girl trying to get in shape through strength training. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing below. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to go ahead and take you through the process of building a lifting platform. What I'm going to do is I'm actually following some directions I found in another YouTube video, and I'll provide the link to that video in the description below. But I am trying to build a lifting platform that levels the surface for when I do my lifts. As many of you know, in a garage you have a sloped floor, and I have actually had a back injury from doing lifts on an uneven surface. So my goal today is to build this lifting platform to mainly correct that slope in my garage. But also I wanted to build the lifting platform so that if and when I do drop weights in the gym, then I'm not damaging the floor. Alright, so I'm just going to run through all the materials I used and the associated cost. So I used 9 sheets of the Yucca board, the hardboard tempered panel, 2 4x8 sheets of OSB plywood, 1 3/4 inch thick piece of a hardwood of some type. I used red oak, 2 4x6 horse stall mats. I used a ton of liquid nails for the wedge. Gonna need an assortment of screws with varying lengths because of the wedge. So that takes the entire total cost of the project up to about $320. Now that's assuming that you have a few other tools around. I used a cordless drill, a cordless circular saw, and a utility knife. You can find out there on YouTube that there are lots of ways to make a lifting platform, and particularly to make a platform where it levels your floor in a garage. However, a lot of them require a little more precision, usually using 2x4s and getting the right angled cut on the 2x4s. I'm a low-tech guy. I'm not, I thought that sounded a little bit more difficult to me, so I found this other video on how to do how to create the wedge without needing the precision of other designs. So essentially, with making the wedge in this design, you just use a number of thin strips of wood, and then you cut it along different sections to make the wedge, upon which then you put the plywood over top of it. So I am going to use this and cut it in 1-foot increments. I chose the 1/8 inch thickness because I determined that the slope in my garage is 1/8 of an inch per foot. So going 8 feet long, if I stack 8 of these together, that should give me the 1 inch that I will need over 8 feet. But you'll have to determine your slope in your garage. It's usually 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, but you'd have to make that measurement. Alright, so let's go ahead and start cutting, and I'll take it from there. Alright, so I'm using this liquid nails glue, and I am gluing the different boards together that way instead of using screws. So go ahead and do that. to just put the weight plates on, let it adhere and cure. So I just finished the wedge for one of the sides. You can see here, this is the finished product. Now I've just got to repeat these steps for the second side of this, because it's going to turn out to be an 8x8 cube. Alright, so I completed the wedge and I placed them side by side. So that gives me an 8x8 square. And now on top of this, I'm gonna place the plywood running in the opposite direction. Alright, so I decided that I wanted to measure where I start putting the screws so that I can deconflict that once I place the horse stall mats on top, so that I'm not screwing through the same area. So I'm just deciding that I'm going to go in from the corner 4 inches by 4 inches and then evenly space them out from there, and we'll see how that goes. So I got the plywood down, and now I just took some measurements to see exactly where I want to put the center hardwood piece, leaving space on the sides for the horse stall mats I'm going to get later. For me, in my space, I'm going to have it slightly off-centered to allow for space for my cable machine that sits off to the side of the rack. So I'm actually going to do 20 inches on one side for horse stall mats and 28 on the other side. Alright, so just finished getting the hardwood portion in the middle there, and this is what we've got so far. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with it. Then I'm going to go get some horse stall mats from Tractor Supply to put them on the sides, and that'll do it. Alright, so I made a trip to Tractor Supply and I got horse stall mats. So we're going to unload them and cut them up so that we can screw them in. So I measured it off, and I'm going to now use my utility knife to cut the horse stall mats into the right dimensions. Alright, so as I started cutting, I initially was trying to just cut basically freehand without having a line to follow, and I very quickly realized I was probably going to mess this up. So I went and I grabbed, this is a little pastel, white pastel. Probably you could use chalk or something to just draw your cut line here. Alright, so I've got to say that was not the easiest process. It's pretty difficult to cut through these, but with enough muscle I was able to get through. Now we'll go ahead and put it in place and make sure it fits. Alright, so I have to say that I am pretty happy with the way it's turning out. So, you know, the horse stall mat is pretty much flush with the hardwood board there in the middle. That's exactly what I was going for. The horse stall mats are 3/4 inch thick, and that's what I got for my hardwood plyboard. So yeah, now I just got to cut the other pieces to fill in, and then we'll put it all into place. Alright, so I've identified that I'm going to need just another 2 feet of the second stall mat. So I'm going to cut it off the 2 feet, and then I'll do my cut along the center.
Find it hard to not give it.
Alright, well, as you can tell, I'm a sweaty mess. That was definitely a lot of hard work just trying to cut that. But it's all done. We'll put it in place. Alright, so I put the mats in place, the horse stall mats, and I discovered something, and that is that I think there's just some slight imperfections with the dimensions of the horse stall mats, so I ended up with these small gaps. I tried to correct it by cutting a little bit more of the rubber off of the additional piece, but it's not great. You can see that gap there. But I've just decided, and I'll show you on this other side, this one's a little bit better. I've just decided I'll live with that because I'm going to end up putting the rack over here on this side, so it will mostly be covered up. Alright, so next thing is to secure these down with screws. Absolute sweaty mess, but I've got everything in place, so that pretty much wraps this up. Now the only thing that I have left is I'm gonna have to move my rack out of the way, get some help from my wife to hopefully just slide this whole thing over and then put the rack on top of it again. So I'll probably do that later tonight and show you the final product. Alright, so just got it into place, and I have to say, you didn't see it on video, but it was a beast to try to move this thing. I thought that I'd be able to just slide it over, my wife and I, but it was way too heavy for that, so we had to deconstruct it a little bit. But this is the finished product here. And like I said before, the main purpose for me making this platform was to create a level surface to lift on. So now is the moment of truth. I've got my level here. We're gonna throw it down and see where it lies. Perfect. So that's a wrap on building the DIY lifting platform. Let me know in the comments below if you got any questions or comments, and We'll see you next time.